Hi, everybody. It's Ron again, and we're here for another day of looking at the headlines, context, and commentary. So let's get right to it. Here at the top of Drudge Report, we have what we see just about every day for the past 2 months. We have the news of the war in the Middle East between Israel and Gaza. We have the other Arab states condemning Israeli crimes. We have Hezbollah, which is in Lebanon in the north there, warning that Beirut could face a similar fate to Gaza. This is, this is the idea that if Hezbollah attacks Israel in the north in a coordinated strike against Israel, that Israel could roll up into to Lebanon again, and that country could face disaster. The story of Lebanon is that in the 50s, it was an expat's paradise. People would go there around the world. It was the Riviera of the Eastern Mediterranean, a paradise, and in the Constitution, they set these things, proportional representation for different religious groups, a certain for Christian, a certain for Muslim, and then over time, the demographics changed. The Christians didn't want to reduce their representation proportionally, their quota, and the Islamic group wanted to raise that up. And eventually, there are a lot of factors, and the whole country broke down. The issue from that point to today is that Lebanon is a pawn in other states around it, like Syria and Israel and even Turkey, countries that have proxy groups that work in there, and Iran as well with Hezbollah. So it's hardly a discrete country and has had disaster after disaster after disaster. A few years ago, they had that huge port explosion. That's something to look up. There's a lot of videos of that giant explosion of a ship, or it was a warehouse on the coast. But it's still a powder keg. We can only hope that Lebanon might become might be restored to its former glory. Yeah, look it up. It's an interesting story. Shows how places can go from a paradise that you don't think could change to disaster. And maybe it was because they interwove religion into their governments. See, it's a good innovation to separate church from state. Here we have U.S. global standing damaged. This is Washington Post, very certainly a left-leaning publication, at least for American politics. But they quite accurately point up this issue here. I better go to the screen. Okay. They most quite accurately point up this issue that, the United States, there's a lot of long-standing political influence in the United States that has us support Israel no matter what. Now, Israel is already going to be a U.S. ally from way back. They're the only democracy in the region. They've been a partner in security and securing the region for a very long time. But beyond that, there are a lot of supporters of Israel in the U.S., powerful supporters in the media and in government for a long time. I've been one of them. I'm not powerful in any way, but I'm like a typical regular old American. But what we have now is really for the first time, we have the same wars that we've had in the Middle East and in that region for a super long time. But I just had an alarm go off. Sorry. So we have all the wars that have gone on there forever and ever. But now for the first time, we have public opinion in the Western liberal democracies that's going against Israel and United States involvement there. So that means President Biden has a very difficult road to hoe, because he's come out supporting Israel very strongly, wants to put more money there, but certainly you cannot discount this sort of public opinion, and it does represent a shift in public opinion in the West. Some might argue it's very factionalized and it's caused by social media, but it is bringing up things in discussions and talks that was never mentioned in past events. It was just wholehearted support for Israel. Here we have rivals challenge Trump on his age, his acuity. They say, oh, he's making mistakes and everything. Why is this significant? Well, in general, the mass media of the United States is left-leaning, and they've been protective of Biden, not only because they're left-leaning, but because Trump attacked the media so viciously. Some of it was, feeling they have to protect democracy against Trump. However, for past presidents, the media has been very tough. Gerald Ford in the 70s walking up the plane, and he tripped a couple times. He wasn't even old, but the media painted him as a buffoon from those couple trips. And I believe in the early cast of Saturday Night Live, there's a couple guys on there who said they'd like to take credit because they did skits of that, and they helped defeat him in his re-election because they showed that Ford was a buffoon. And of course, in Reagan's time, many people tried to play up the fact towards the end of his second term that he was becoming senile, this sort of thing. However, you don't see that much with Biden. The media has kind of thrown a blanket over this as much as they can, most of the outlets. However, where you might say, look at Trump, who's 77, almost 80, that's quite old to be in that position. Normally, you would expect the media to go after Trump in this circumstance, but they haven't, because if they did, they'd have to equally go after Biden. And we're almost to the point, certainly in the context of the primary elections, even the left-leaning media now has to acknowledge the issue of Biden's age. This is why there's certainly some hopes that some other people might come up and become a better candidate than Biden is. So on the Republican side, here for the first time, they're trying to paint Trump with the same brush that they've tried to paint Biden with all the time. So this is significant that the age now of both candidates is going to have to be out there in the open as the primaries ramp up, and as the guys in the smoke-filled rooms, as I've talked about every day for the past week, these are the power players in the Republican Party and the Democrat Party, try to see if there may be a better, more viable character that's a little more sturdy on both sides rather than Trump and Biden. I certainly know foreigners will often say, when they look at Trump and Biden, or even when they looked at Trump and Hillary, they say, are these the best that America has to offer? The people that America is supposed to be so great? It does seem like we should be in for a younger generation to take over. Here we've got New York Post, which is a sort of definitely a right-leaning publication. And, when I say publications are right or left-leaning, usually I don't mean that they're purposely lying about anything. It's just in the choice of the stories. What you tend to emphasize might align with your viewpoints of what's important. So here we have the anti-Israeli protests in downtown New York, throwing fake blood on New York Times, upsetting people there. And, this is very much people they're not even for the Palestinians or Hamas. A lot of them want to see the destruction of the state of Israel. This is quite something in at least in the American media mood, where we see this reported during one of these times of war in the Middle East. because we're used to war in the Middle East. We're not used to this sort of open protest against Israel in the United States. I'll note this here. This is a Jim Biden. Looks just like Biden. Just a few more meals in him. This is a thing, you know, in the United States systems, I would say maybe since the 70s, you know, if you were a family member of a high official in government, particularly the president, you know, the president is going to be investigated, whoever it is, by partisan investigators, by prosecutors who have unlimited money. They will find something, and it means your family members are going to be fair play too. Just like Biden, his sons constantly in the news for perhaps minor scandals, I would say. And here we have the business dealings of Biden's brother also dredged up to entangle the president. More about the primaries there. Here is sweeping raids, giant camps, and mass deportations. And this is from a right-leaning source, but this is something that a lot of Americans will agree with, and it will. You see, there's several of these articles. Here's Revenge Term. Here's The Guardian, definitely a hardcore left-leaning publication. Lots of good stuff in The Guardian. You know, they even have, this isn't even an opinion piece as far as I can tell, but the photo they use is this photo of Trump standing behind this light. So it looks like he has devil horns. And in the caption, they don't even point up the fact that this is a photo designed to make Trump look bad. They just, oh, here's a photo. This is what he looks like in this lighting. Looks like he's about to tell a scary story, you know, around the campfire. So all of these articles, you know, they have an alarmist tone. This Guardian article, this DNYUZ article talking about mass deportations, but a lot of Americans who have seen the peculiar and wide open borders that America has adopted during this presidential term of Biden, the way many cities have been just swamped with economic migrants. And you probably read about this, where, you know, some states, they will pay for buses to ship these migrants to other more liberal states far away. So Texas doesn't want to deal with so many people. They don't have control over their border. The federal government is just letting people come over nonstop. You know, there is a push and pull between local law enforcement that maybe wants to arrest the illegal aliens, people who come in. And, you know, they've even tried to make the term illegal alien something you can't say, you know, as if going into another country illegally is not illegal. As an American, try doing that to another country. Try crossing into Mexico, see how they treat you there. But anyway, I'm just saying that we may read these, and it does seem scary what Trump, what he's willing to do to transcend the norms of American democracy. But on the other hand, I still understand for a lot of people, not really me, I'm not sure why I have to say that, but this sort of thing is exactly what people might want based on what they've seen in the last 4 years. Here we had Eric Adams yesterday in New York. We talked about that. Venezuela, prison crackdown, criminal purge, or political show. This is that country in South America that destroyed itself by really socializing its economy big time. Unfortunately, we live in a time where there isn't really a big political power like the Soviet Union that might take advantage of such a government to maybe station troops or menace the U.S. or try to counterbalance U.S. influence in the region. So in a previous time, if the Soviet Union was there and doing that and cooperating, the United States might try to really actively overthrow that government. They probably are in some minor way, but in general, since Venezuela has done this, and there's really nobody that they really can't needle the U.S. with this system, their system of government. Most people just kind of laugh at that Venezuela has adopted this system. You know, oh, you're all socialists now. Well, welcome to a world where toilet paper is more valuable than gold. Where in a previous, if it was in the time of the Soviet Union, troops might have gone in because they would be afraid of a new ally for that access. There really isn't, we talk about Russia trying to create a new axis of different countries because they've been isolated now because of their invasion of Ukraine, but they're really in no position to start needling the U.S. or expanding their power. They're bogged down in the Ukraine. So it's a different world. Okay, what do we have next? Clearing out the homeless, San Francisco, for arrival of Biden and for the leader of China. Feds pursue client list of powerful Johns after bust of high-end prostitution ring. This little thing was noted in some media outlets, but these further articles about the high-end people they may catch, I just noticed in the Washington Times, which is certainly a right-wing publication in terms of what they're willing to emphasize in their news or cover in their news. And they were really one of the first, the vanguard of all these media outlets going right or left, probably over 20 years ago. And certainly they're willing to try to have these scandals and pump them up, especially if they're against left-leaning sources. So this might make me think that this list of powerful Johns may hit some Democrats, but who knows? We'll see. Or it just could be completely false rabble-rousing, saying, just raising a doubt about such a thing that without really any evidence. So, let's see. I just noted this just as something. Los Angeles mansion owners test 150,000 rents as sales slump. That is per month. Can you imagine paying that? I can imagine it. Kind of makes me sad. You have Pope removes conservative Texas bishop. Rare move. Takes a step towards trans Catholics. Scientists say there may have been a second Big Bang. This is just to quickly note. So like in science, you have a lot of evidence. You have different evidence. Using the systems of the day, whether it's a telescope or some super elaborate microscope, you look at the evidence. Then based on all that, they have a theory. They make a theory hypothesis, a theory that describes what you're seeing. And that usually stands based on the evidence with the technology of the day until another day, and technology grows. And they have new ways to measure things, new ways to look at things. Then you have a new theory that will have to describe that. So, like with gravity, you have Newtonian ideas of gravity where you started out with 18th and 19th century methods of observation. But now we can observe things to a much greater degree. So we have to have a new theory in the 20th century to more accurately describe physics and the way things work and the way forces in the world behave, how you identify them. And what we've had here is there were lots of theories about what dark matter is, where it's hidden, this sort of a thing, based on observations. Then they went out and again say new technology. They have they have these colliders where you look at the subatomic particles, and then you have new out in space, the new space telescopes and radio telescopes and all this sort of stuff. So new data comes in, and then it seems like, well, maybe the old theories don't fit exactly because they're not seeing the things that confirm exactly where this black matter was based on the previous thoughts about it. So you'll see a lot of these articles. We're in the age where people are questioning whether the Big Bang really happened, because when they look back, a lot of the galaxies seem to be too well organized to be that young, and on and on. And this is just another idea where the new technology that has given new observations has thrown into question the old theories about how things work. And that's great. That's neat. It's amazing that the mind of man, we little monkey creatures that wear clothes and create religions, that we can perceive those sort of those things billions of light years away, or figure out the things that are happening in the cells deep within our bodies. Is anything still true on the internet? No one knows. This is really scary, what we have. It's a confluence of two things. We have these tools create perfect fake videos and clone the voices. Okay, that's one thing. If this were another age, if this were maybe 20 years ago, it might be okay because people were interested in the truth of different things. People did not believe in conspiracies or doubt the media or doubt the politicians like they do today. But now we have this political factionalism within the United States, where we have the right, we have QAnon, we have groups that kind of relish believing stuff that they know is crazy. And perhaps at some point they actually believe it, and they love to rile up the other side or the mainstream because of the things they vow that they believe in. So into this mix, we have new proof, which is this fake videos and audio. And you see on Twitter all the time people, sharing stuff that's fake. And even when it's called out as fake, it just seems people like to still believe it. So this is a scary mix when we have this perfect AI thrown into a body politic that is having fun believing things that are false. More stuff about the shutdown, government, always bored with that. This is, you got robots making robots, you got AI taking over all the jobs. I don't know how we will live. I hope maybe I'll be dead by then. It just seems like there's going to be a big kerfuffle in the world. I don't know how that'll work out. I'll focus and work on today, but that's a scary thing. The one thing I will say about this is all this technology, whether it's AI or whatever it is, it always takes a little bit longer than you would expect to come to fruition. These things got to unseat vested interest, economic models, historical and geopolitical things that were thought as certainties. So all predictions, even like if you predict things of politics are going to happen and when countries might do this or that, always add about a third onto it of the time because for whatever reason, humans were always too optimistic in the timeline of what we think will happen and how fast it will happen. This cool ball in Vegas, love to see it. I have a feeling that places like Dubai, Qatar, all these other countries, or Singapore, these city-state sort of places that want to become big on the map, they're going to build bigger ones real quickly, and pretty soon this will be been there, seen that, done that. Here we're told this is superhero fatigue, but certainly we've come through an era of filmmaking since, the Marvel's movies, Avenger Endgame. That was really good. I liked most of those Marvel movies. They were entertaining. They were like an amusement park ride. I'm an old critical studies film school guy, so I can see how you would turn your nose up at these amusement park movies, but up to Endgame, they were very entertaining, and I was entertained, at least. And I thought Endgame was masterful in the way it checkerboarded the different sequences. The stories brought them all together, never confusing. Since then, for whatever reason, Disney has certainly taken a fall. It seems like there was a conscious decision to start making these films by formula, by committee, relying on special effects, certainly trying to, as they say, pander to different audiences, right? Maybe, do women really want to see more women on film, or do women really want to see hunky men on film? It seems like a lot of marketing feedback in the past years as these movies came out. Was it disregarded? Was it not listened to? And so we have a position, we've come to a position now where it seems like this Marvel's movie was sort of almost like a write-off for the studio. And certainly we're going to see some shakeup in the industry, the film industry. Here we have NFL. I know most people don't know about U.S. sports. That's the one sport I kind of like. I like watching the NFL, the football. It's a very technical game. It's a very statistic-driven game. I think it's a lot of fascinating trends in it. It's almost like politics to me, which I enjoy thinking about and talking about, like in these videos. This is the famous coach there of the New England Patriots. He was the coach during the time when Tom Brady was the quarterback and won a lot of Super Bowls, had a lot of success. This brings up the idea that are these great coaches really great? Or are they just lucky enough to be there at the time when they have a great marquee quarterback, a great franchise-making quarterback like Tom Brady? You just get lucky as a coach, and then maybe they say you're a great coach because of that. I don't know. I'll get away from sports. I think more and more, most people don't like sports unless it's soccer, which most of you call football for some reason. But to me, as an American, that's soccer, football is quite boring. But maybe I'll try to get into it, try to appreciate it someday. Ordinary Russians feel the wrath of Putin's repression. Wow, what a sad fate for this country after the Soviet Union fell, and in the 90s, the U.S. poured tons of money into it. And after all is said and done, they return to a sort of a mafia state, and we have Putin there doing all this stuff. I know some people who study geopolitics say nothing really changed in Russia. Nothing really changed in the Soviet Union. Russia has because of it's a land-based power across these almost infinite steps in Asia, that it's always been an expansionist power, and from that flows the authoritarianism that made up the Soviet Union, and the Soviet Union and those communist ideas were just an overlay onto an existing structure that was always going to be expansionist and authoritarian. And we see it continuing or reverting back to that at present. And we'll end here with Iceland, a place I'd love to go to someday. I hope I do get to see it. Volcanoes, beautiful country, interesting looking women. And that's Iceland. There are still unknown places in the world. And on that, this is my book, There Are Still Unknown Places. This is a novel of life in modern Bangkok. It's the story of young men and women, both foreigners coming here to work and local ties, and their lives, their hopes, their aspirations, their loneliness in the big city. It's the story of all of us in our lives, the things we have to deal with, the desire to run and hide. It's on Amazon. It's on Kindle. If you'd like to read it, I'd love that. And if you like it, let me know. Or maybe even if you don't like it, send me an email or send me a comment. And I will see you next time with more context and commentary on the headlines. Bye-bye.